Good morning. Welcome to the Cheap Seats. Little post-holiday episode 11 podcast. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, Kevin.
Happy Boxing Day, Patrick. How are
That's
you?
right. Yeah, happy Boxing Day to all of our Canadian friends, and I have some family. So,
Yes. My
um,
wife's friend's Canadian. I think there's still some relatives up there.
sure. There you go.
She is
Um,
related to, I don't know if this is good or bad because I don't like to get political and I don't know enough about it, but she is related like an eighth cousin of Trudeau,
oh,
the uh,
yeah.
the Prime
Don't
Minister
let
of Canada. Gunshots.
keep
I
that on
don't
the
know.
down. Keep that on the down low.
Yeah, exactly.
So
I don't.
we've
I don't
been
think we
we've
can
been
pop
kicking
up
this.
and.
Yeah. We've been kicking this around for a few weeks. The what I consider is probably the best hockey tournament there is the U20 World Championships, which starts up this afternoon. And I think I was doing a little bit of research, not too much, but a little bit. So I think the first year I watched was in 1996. It was being held in Boston.
I believe it was in Boston then.
It's funny because now that I look back on it and I'm like, what they used, like, typically it's like two rinks, depending on the area. Like in Boston, they used it was like 4 or 5. So they held games at the Worcester Centrum, UMass, the Mullins Center, which I think had just opened like
Oh, they
the
went to
year
UMass
prior.
Amherst?
Yeah.
Wow.
Then they
I
had
didn't know they
games
went up
at
there.
New England Sports, not Village, but the other one up in
One in
Marlboro.
Marlboro? Oh, wow.
Yep. They had games at Northeastern.
Okay. Matthews Arena.
Yep. And then I think there was one more. Worcester Centrum, New England Sports Center, the Mullins Center, Matthews Arena, and actually the Springfield Civic Center in Springfield. That's how wide it was. It was basically like outside of Matthews Arena, all the games were out Central and Western Mass.
So they didn't even play at the Garden?
No.
That's how much the tournament's grown.
The Centrum had opening game between Canada and U.S. New England Sports Center had Finland Switzerland game. Mullins Center had Canada versus Switzerland on the 27th, the same day. Matthews Arena, Ukraine versus United States, and then Finland, Ukraine. And then the Springfield Civic Center held the United States Switzerland game. Doesn't really talk about where the finals were, but I'm assuming it was at one of these arenas because they don't mention any other arena out there. So
I would think
interestingly, I would assume Matthews. Interestingly enough, I looked at that roster just for the hell of it. And so a couple local guys, Woonsocket natives, Brian Berard, and Brian Boucher, both who played at Mount St. Charles. Let's see. We had Jeff Kelty, who was at Catholic Memorial, who was playing at BU. He's a Framingham, Mass kid. Jeremiah McCarthy, who played at Harvard. I think he played at Belmont Hill. He was from Belmont. And Tom Pody, who's a Worcester, born in Worcester, grew up in Worcester. He played at Cushing Academy. And then I think he might have played at BU after that. And then obviously Chris Drury, Trumbull, Connecticut kid who everyone knows because he's won everything he's ever done. Little League World Series.
Exactly.
I think he was a Hobie Baker Award winner, College National Championship. I think he did win a Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah, I think the year he won a national championship, they came out, and I think he won a cup with the Devils the same year. He's like one of those few people that win a national championship and a Stanley Cup in the same year. I think.
And then, believe it or not, I sent a text to my buddy this morning because when I found this out, Do you know who the leading scorer was off this team? Now, it wasn't. Now, they ended up finishing 5th in that tournament. But the leading scorer on that team, who you would think would be, there weren't any real other big names. Matt Cullen, Ben Clymer was on there. Marty Reisner, who was a BC, he played at Boston College, but he was from New York.
He had a long NHL career.
Yeah, I mean, there were no names. Mike York, who's a Michigan State. But outside, there was no names that jumped off the page at you. But certainly, this kid wouldn't have struck me as being the leading scorer. You're not going to guess, so I'm just going to tell you. So he played at Catholic Memorial back when I was in high school. Same time I was in high school. Was kind of a mediocre. I mean, maybe a little above average, I would say, player. And for whatever reason, he ended up going to BU. But this kid, he's from Newton, Mike Sylvia. He led the U.S. in scoring at that tournament, which didn't really mean much because I think it was only 7 points. And as I looked at the stats from that, I couldn't find any stats on Boucher, which I thought was odd. I figured he would have played more than anyone, but they had another goalie named Mark Magliarditi, who says he only played 3 games. So they played 6 total. So I'm assuming Boucher played the others, but there's no stats on their stat sheet for him at all. But Mike Sylvia led Team USA in scoring with 2 goals, 5 assists for 7 points in 39 penalty minutes. So the U.S., I mean, if you look at this stat sheet, it's like there's probably a dozen guys that had double digits in penalties. So it was probably just a penalty-filled tournament for them.
Yeah.
I don't recall, and I was only 19.
Yeah.
Probably. Yeah, 19.
You mentioned that they came in 5th. So my guess is that's why, the leading scorer is somebody I haven't heard of. I thought maybe Barad, even though I think Barad was a defenseman anyway. I can't remember.
Yeah, but offensive minded, moving defenseman. Yeah,
but
yeah.
I remember, I did not follow this tournament as far back as '96. Matter of fact, I was surprised that it was in Boston. I don't even remember hearing much about it. The fact that it was all spread out throughout the Commonwealth
makes sense.
Just shows how little promoted it was. I mean, to go from Matthews Arena in Boston to the Springfield Civic Center and the Mullins Center all over Massachusetts, when ever since I've been following it, it's been in 2 different places. Like this year's tournament is in 2 places in Ottawa.
Yeah, usually it's 2.
Two rinks.
2 years ago, I think even 2 years ago when it was on the western side of Canada, I think they only played at 2 rinks too. One was a more smaller, junior hockey rink, but it was still only 2 locations. And again, I don't even. I mean, in '96, I don't even know what the New England sports thing up in Marlborough even looked like back then. I know now there's 8. 20 rinks up there, but
it's at least 8. I know that.
Yeah,
but I'm thinking there's not attendance for Ottawa, the championship is going to draw. Well, I mean, they're going to average this tournament. They're going to average over 8,000 a game. There's no rink in Marlborough that seats 8,000. The Mullins Center barely seats 8,000. There's no way Matthews Arena seats 8,000. Springfield Civic Center probably does, but if they advertise this being in Boston and the biggest arenas were in Western Mass,
they were all in Western Mass.
Except for the Matthews.
That's it. Everything else was in Central. I mean, Marlborough is really Central Mass.
Right.
And then Western Mass. So anyway, I wanted to kind of bring that up because, I was like, well, it's the first time I watched it was when it was in Boston. And now I'm like, oh, wow, that was crazy. So anyway, so this year, obviously it starts this afternoon.
It's about 2.5 hours.
I think the first game is at 12 o'clock.
Yeah, it's Sweden against Slovakia.
Slovakia and Sweden. So
TV place.
I've done a little bit of reading on it. Obviously, U.S. comes in as a defending gold medal team. They're looking to go back-to-back for the first time in U.S. history.
Yep.
I think on paper, Canada is probably the deeper team.
The gambling odds has Canada 1 and USA 2, like plus 130, plus 140. Then there's a huge drop to like a plus 500, I think, for Finland third. So
or
not
Sweden,
that those are
maybe.
necessarily maybe. I mean, not that those are necessarily the power rankings, but clearly it's in everyone's opinion, it's a USA Canada tournament. As I always think it is, but Canada didn't even medal last year. So I think
they had a tough. It was tough for them. I think they finished fifth last year, which is why they're in the same grouping as the U.S. again. So, Canada has a lot of depth on the front end, and they have a lot of depth on the back end. But with the U.S., I think the U.S. have the best first line. I mean, they have the trio from BC. You got Ryan Leonard, James Haggins, and Gabe Perreault, who are just dynamic players. I think Haggins is draft eligible this year, and he's a dynamo. I mean, he's a dynamo. I mean, Ryan Leonard is great. He played on last year's team, as did Gabe Perreault. They've been playing together all winter. So I think they're going to be a force really to be reckoned with. But really, I think where the U.S. has a significant advantage is between the pipes. I mean, Trey Augustine, who's out of Michigan State, has played in big game after big game after big game. He played phenomenal last year. I think he had a 939 save percentage in last year's tournament. So, if he can play like he did last year, I think the U.S. have a shot. I mean, obviously, it comes down to they're coming out of the same, whether it's A or B. I don't know. I think it's Group A. They'll play each other New Year's Eve.
Yeah, they're playing each other New Year's Eve. Just looking really quick. I think you're right. I think they're in Group A. I just had it in front of me.
Then there's a pretty decent drop off after that. I think so. They played 2 pre-tournament games, where they beat. I want to say they beat Czech. Was it Czechia they beat or Slovakia? One of them. They beat them 6-2.
I think Slovakia and Finland. Are those the two?
And then they beat Finland 5-2 in the next game. I know Canada struggled against. It was Canada who struggled against Czechia. They beat them 3-2. But then, from what I understand, they handled Sweden pretty well and beat them 4-2 in their second game. So that's all out the window as you start up today. But
Group A is Canada, U.S., Finland, Germany, and Latvia. And Group B is Czechia, Sweden, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Kazakhstan.
Yeah, so Group B is you got Sweden and Finland, and then it's a significant drop off, right?
Yeah.
So,
I got Sweden coming out of that.
Yeah, I mean Sweden and Finland should come out of that. And you said Switzerland's in A?
No, Switzerland's in B. Czechia, Sweden, Slovakia, Switzerland, and Kazakhstan.
The last few tournaments, Switzerland's always been this. You never know. You have to play. I mean, obviously, you have to play all the games, right? Everyone's at
they're that 500 team, though, right?
Yeah, but they always end up knocking off somebody because they just play a tough style of games. They always, I don't know what they have for talent this year coming in. I was trying to read up a little bit on some of these other teams.
You're right, though. They play someone tough, really tough, knock somebody off, then they'll go lose to Kazakhstan 3-2.
Right.
It gets real confusing. They do enough not to get relegated, but they don't take the step up to the next level either.
I want to say last year, Canada lost last year to, I want to say it was Czechia in that game, and it was their goalie stood on his head, Hrabal. And so he's like the other goalie that they talk about coming in. If he can catch fire again, maybe Czechia can make some noise. Can they play with the big boys every night? Probably not. But it'll be interesting to see what happens. We got a little comment here. Rudy Gowan, best hockey tournament of the year. Let's go USA. It's such a shame we don't have Russia playing again. Yeah, it's true. Russia isn't included. Harabo. I have another comment here. Oh, we got viewers, which is always good. UMass goalie. Harabo is a UMass goalie. He stood on his head last tournament. I remember that. And they did upset Canada. So as we know in hockey, if you get a hot goalie, anything can happen.
To address Rudy briefly, I believe the Olympics in 2 years is holding out a spot for Russia. Should the political landscape change in such a way, if not, then they have another team ready to take their place. So the Olympics will go on, but they do have a team. They do have a spot open for Russia. Doesn't help us in the junior tournament this year, but at least in the Olympics, there'll be a spot for Russia. Should the political landscape change and they're allowed in, and I don't know where we stand on that. That's the only thing I heard, that there's, I guess, an olive branch to Russia that way. So,
yeah. So today's lineup, you got Slovakia, Sweden at 12. Wow, they get the military time thing going. Jesus.
Germany, USA at 2:30.
Yeah, Germany, USA at 2:30. Czech and Swiss play at. I'm going to say 5.
It says 5. It says 5 on my website right now. And then a good one to finish up tonight.
Finland, Canada at 7:30 tonight.
Right
in the night. Canada gets the nightcap. I think every night they play. I think they're playing the last game.
Interesting.
They're the host team.
When they play, now I'm looking. Canada has the 28th off.
They play back to back, and then they have the 28th off.
They have the
U.S.
off.
The U.S. play today. They're off tomorrow. Then they play Latvia on the 28th. Then they play Finland on the 29th.
I love that they brought back the USA Canada New Year's Eve. It's a traditional game, and they got that as the night game at 8:00 New Year's Eve. That's the last game of the preliminary rounds, which is fantastic.
Yeah, you know where I'll be. I will be watching that game somewhere, either downstairs or at when is that? New Year's Eve is Tuesday, next Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday night.
So, but just again, we talked about this before. Just from a pure hockey standpoint, right? This is the purest. It's amateur for the most part. Amateur. Obviously, some of these kids over in Europe are playing in their professional league, but those leagues aren't. When we talk professional, we don't consider the Swedish elite league.
No, it's a good league. It's probably on par with the AHL. KHL might be a little bit better than the AHL, but still not as good as the NHL. And I took a quick look at Canada's roster this morning, and everybody is from the Q, the O, or the W. There's one AHL player. He's affiliated with the Blackhawks, I believe. Other than that, everybody's from a junior team. If I remember correctly, on USA, I think there's 3 AHL players, and everybody else is from either their college or junior team as well. That's going off of memory. So if you have updated information on that, feel free. And I can't speak to the rest of the countries.
I don't think there are any. I could be wrong, though. There's a couple. No AHL teams
on USA.
Oh,
nice. Okay.
NCAA or Canadian, OHL, mostly OHL. I don't see any Western.
You know what, Pat? The last time I actually looked at the USA roster and any sort of details was the preliminary roster of 30 before they got down to 23. So I think there were some AHL players on that preliminary roster, but they hadn't finalized their roster. So, wow, that's interesting because I know there was some AHL players that they either cut, didn't need, or they got recalled
Yeah, or they just didn't. The professional teams didn't give. Yeah, I know. Not gonna be able to think of his name off the top of my head. The other kid from BC who played last year, who is a San Jose draft pick. He's a local kid. I want to say out of Lexington. There was talks that they were going to let him come over and play. I know he's playing right now. He's playing down in their system. So, but I don't think that happened. But they're all, a lot of returning players from last year's team.
10.
There's a couple guys that played. A couple guys that played on the 2024 U.S. men's national team. So at the when you start hearing when the NHL playoffs start, they have the World Championships. And most of the NHLers who don't make the playoffs will go. Some of them will go over and play in the World Championships. A couple of these guys went over there. Trey Augustine played. Ryan Leonard played. And then there are. I want to say Augustine might be the only one that played on the 2023 junior team. So this is his third year with them. So I'd say who they are. A couple young guys. I guess most of them are all drafted. There's only 2 draft eligible players. Logan Hensier, who's at University of Wisconsin. He's 2025 draft eligible. And this kid, James Haggins from BC, he's a New York kid. He's, there's been discussions of him being potentially one of the top 5 picks this year. Could be first. He's a kid. I've seen clips of him where he literally skates around and, game skate, like during games, never once looks at the puck. He's that good. He has just great hands. So I'm interested to see that line. I mean, that line is, you've seen, actually, the other kid who we didn't mention, Trevor Conley.
Oh, from Providence College. Yeah.
Yeah. And maybe I didn't mention it because when I looked on my list, he's from California. So, Trevor's he's a dynamic player himself. So, again, just such a great, it is a great tournament. It's condensed, so every game matters. You can't play, and that's always been some of these big teams. They play down to the level, right? Where you got to jump out. You come out against Latvia, and it's like you want to come out, and you want to, the mindset got to be, hey, we want to beat these guys 6-7-0,
right?
Because that comes into play. Goal differential
does come into play in some sort of tiebreaker, which, in a group of Canada, US, Finland, Germany, and Latvia, it might come down to it, some sort of tiebreaker, especially if you got 3 teams that are tied, for first place. So it's you want to score. You don't want to run it up, but you still want to score. And you might want to win 7-0, 8-0, 9-0, So it's
especially against these teams that you're supposed to come out and you're supposed to, the Kazakhstans, the Latvias, the Swiss. You don't want to let them get any confidence. Germany's usually decent, but they lack a lot of the skill. Like other players. Another comment here from Rich from Maryland. UMass goalie plays for, I believe he plays for Czechia. Harabel. I can confirm that, but I think that, so he played. He's the goalie who played last year and upset Canada, where Canada ended up finishing 5th. Michael Harabel. Made 28 saves against Canada in a 3-2 win.
I'm looking at it right now just to make sure. It's found an article.
He is a Utah Hockey Club draft pick, and he plays for what I don't even know what flag that is.
I go around
Slovakia.
Czechia.
No,
UMass. I pulled out UMass freshman forward Daniel Jenko and sophomore goaltender Michael Harabel have been selected to the pre-tournament camp process for their respective nations of Slovakia and Czechia for the World Junior Championship. So Harabel is on Czechia, I believe. I'll confirm that.
Yeah. So
before we're done. But,
no, it's good. Yep. So
you confirmed it, Pat?
Yeah. Yeah. He played that last year, 12 games. 23, 24, 24. Yeah. So 23, 24, he played 12 games in the tournament. I guess that makes sense.
12 seems like a lot. Are they counting as U18?
They might count like the pre-tournament games and all that. They've already played 3. That he already has 3 credited for this year. Oh, maybe that was. Yeah, I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. So anyway, Rich from Maryland. He plays for Czechia. He had 28 saves in the 3-2 upset win over Canada last year, which put Canada in 5th. So he is the other goalie that they've talked about. Just, he can catch. He's a solid goalie. He can catch fire, and whenever a goalie catches fire, the team can kind of go with that. But everything I've read, is a pretty big drop off between Trey Augustine and the rest of the field, which is where the U.S. have the advantage on the back end. And they're just, not that they're not deep, but they're just not as deep as Canada. From a, maybe down through 4 lines. Canada is a little bit deeper on the lower end, where, the U.S. has certainly probably the best line, first line. And they got some good defensemen too. Cole Hudson, he's a BU kid. His brother played at BU. He's on Montreal now. He was on the team last year. Just a dynamic defenseman, great hands, scorer. This kid Zeev Boyum, he's on Denver. He's another kid. He was a first round draft pick, 12th overall by Minnesota. So they got some good size too. They have a 6'4" kid, Colin Ralph from St. Cloud. Again, it's the best tournament in the world. It's the reason why I watch it every year. It is on NHL Network, which a lot of people complain about because it's not. I guess I don't know. I've always had it. I don't know.
Well, I mean, Pat, when I first started watching this tournament, again, probably about 20 years ago. So after you, but it used to be on the Center Ice package, the tournament. It wasn't on NHL Network, and then NHL Network would pick up all the USA games only, and the occasional Canada game if it fit in their schedule, and then they would pick up the semis and the finals. I believe definitely the finals, especially if USA was in it. And it was like that for a few years as well. Then finally, NHL Network a few years ago, I think finally has picked up the whole tournament. I think they realized it was a bit of a demand. You got the network, NHL Network. You got TSN up, right? You got TSN up in Canada running 5 different networks. Like ESPN's got the Ocho down here.
Right.
You got TSN running all the games up on their network. So NHL Network, maybe not everybody has it, but it's like the next tier. It might not be part of basic cable or however people are streaming it, but it's not super expensive, and it is a way. If you're in this tournament, you're probably into sports. You probably already got the NHL Network anyway.
Right.
I mean, I guess you could stream it, pay for it, go to YouTube TV, subscribe to it for a month or so. Believe it or not, a lot of these channels have a free trial for a week or two. DirecTV or YouTube go grab a free trial.
I mean, some of them do it around events like this, where it's like, hey, if we can draw in a lot of people, most people forget to cancel.
They do forget to cancel. That's how they get you. I think that's how come I'm still paying for Apple TV. Because I think
there's a lot of things. I see those commercials out there where they're like, "Give me your phone. Like, how many subscriptions are you paying for?" And I'm like, I don't even want to know.
I don't even want to know.
I cut the cord probably, I don't know, probably like 8 years ago, thinking I was going to save money, and I know there's no chance I'm saving any money. everything costs a lot.
I'm on
But I have a lot more.
Comcast, and they're doing a decent job of picking up all the apps. And I'm reading other people that when they pick up YouTube TV and DirecTV, and they're streaming this and streaming that, they're paying almost the same amount that they were paying when they cut the cord.
Yeah.
You mentioned 8 years ago.
You get every stream. I mean, I have every streaming service. I think Disney Plus, Paramount Plus,
right? Hulu.
Netflix. I think I have free through my cell phone, but we got Hulu, and it's like
Amazon Prime.
What do we watch on Hulu? Well, I watched that one show. I'm like, it's on every 2 years. Like, oh my god, like Amazon Prime, which I need because my wife orders so much crap that it just makes sense. It does pay for itself.
Yeah, it does. It does. So, Pat, I don't know if you've used this argument. Like, I think I said it on our show last week before we signed off. This tournament I use not the brother you met, but my other brother, who was like longing for the days of the Olympics of 1980, of the amateur status. I'm like, every single year they run a tournament that checks off the boxes that you want. Again, the professionals we're talking about, the Swedish Elite League, AHL, KHL, but mostly the juniors and the college players. Like, this is the tournament you're looking for. They're 20 and under. They are the future of the NHL for the most part. I mean, the Bruins sent poachers down last year to play for Canada in the tournament. And you do hear of that from some other teams as well. Like, okay, yeah, go play in this. Build up what it's like to play in a playoff, and then come back again, and we'll get you in the NHL. But it's such a great tournament. From that point of view, there are some blowouts, of course. I mean, USA is going to beat a Kazakhstan, or Canada is going to beat somebody really big, 10-1. That's why I like DVRing it. You can fast forward those games. But there's going to be a lot of great hockey as well in there, especially once you get into the playoffs. And then it's always interesting to see who gets relegated. See who gets.
My guess is it's going to be Latvia, Kazakhstan battling out for that. But even a lot of these teams. I mean, you look at I'm just pulling up some of these rosters, right? Czechia. I want to say it's Czechia, right? The Czechia. And you look at their club teams. Most of them are playing over here,
right?
You got. Cape Breton Eagles, Brantford Bulldogs, Ontario Reign, Brantford Steelheads, Edmonton Oil Kings. All these, they're all playing over here. Brampton Steelheads. There's a few that are playing over there still, but Camp Blue Blazers, Edmonton Oil Kings, UMass Amherst. So they're all playing. A lot of these, and that was like unheard of years ago. I mean, they all played in their countries. In some professional or junior system, now they're all coming over.
Right.
They're all coming over to play in the CHL, the OHL, the Western League, or the USHL, or college. Yep. I mean, Jesus. I mean, my brother and I talk all the time, and he goes to a lot of these local junior games, and he's like, these rosters are filled, and even the D3 hockey rosters. We've talked about this too. There's like more guys from Europe playing on D3 teams than there are from America.
Right.
So I think
they come over. The joke is,
I think last year I think
D3 fat was about. What's that?
Go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, sorry.
There was a goalie who was playing in the null, playing on one of these, more obscure teams, but. He was like, "Yo, where do you play?" He's like, "I'm playing in, I don't know which team it was, but it was like, essentially the North American Hockey League."
Well, they were saying the joke many years ago for the D3 hockey players were just the D1 players that got their applications in too late.
Yeah,
there's that much talent out there, so it's great talent out there. People, you look at so many of these players have already been drafted by NHL teams.
In his Slovakia, Fargo Force, Michigan State, Des Moines Buccaneers, Kitchener Rangers, Fargo Force, Sioux Falls Stampede, Springfield Thunderbirds, UMass Amherst, that's Jenko, Jenko or Daniel Jenko, Moncton Wildcats, Quebec Remparts, Muskegon Lumberjacks, Sioux City Musketeers. I mean, they're all coming over here. And that was unheard of.
Most of them have been drafted.
Yeah, Sweden might be the one that a lot of them stay home because they have their own professional league. Yeah, for the most part.
I'm pulling up Sweden's roster right now.
Sweden has a kid from the Sabres, Anton Wahlberg, so they must have let him come down. Youngstown Phantoms, but for the most part, they're all, BU. There's a kid, Tom Willander. He's a BU kid, but for the most part, they're all in Sweden playing for Carolina Hurricanes. Wow, they have another NHLer or in this system, probably AHL.
But you look at even at the Sweden teams, the Swedish team, most of their players are property of NHL players. Eventually, it's crazy.
They're probably all drafted, but they're just playing over there. Let's see.
Right. Oh, yes, they're playing over there now.
Janesville Jets. Swiss, I think they will tend to stay over there and play in other European professional leagues. Rimouski, Regina Pats. Yeah, so there's only a couple guys. They always have one or two really skilled players, though. I'm just taking a quick look at these rosters. Finland's another one that they probably yeah. Medicine Hat, Buffalo Sabres, London Knights, Everett Silvertips, Dubuque Fighting Saints. Yeah, so Barry Colts. A lot of these guys, a lot of these countries, and that was unheard of years ago. But, they know where the better product is.
Right.
Germany, Green Bay Gamblers, Halifax Mooseheads, Powell River Kings,
the Mooseheads,
Saskatoon Blades.
Are the Mooseheads named after the beer? Or?
I don't know. Probably. Latvia. I think who's the big Latvian player? Was it Korpatar? I think it was Korpatar. He's a big, well-known Latvian player.
Take your word
St.
on that.
Cloud.
Sure.
Ooh, Shattuck St. Mary's. No, Roberts Nadines, Shattuck St. Mary's. That's interesting.
So, Pat, let me ask you this question: the way it's set up in the tournament, USA, because they're both in the same group, USA cannot play Canada for the gold. Is that accurate? But they could play.
No, they can. So they'll end up being a cross. So 1v, I think they take the top. They take the top
four.
Top four from each.
Yeah, top four.
So one in A plays 4 in B.
Yeah.
And then 2 in A plays 3 in B. Right?
Yeah.
So essentially, they could end up playing each other in the final, I believe. Depending on where they finish. Unless they finish, depending on where they finish in the 4. But if they finish 1 or 2 in each side, if they finish 1 or 2, they should be able to play each other in the final.
Oh yeah, you're right. Because all right, so I'm writing it down.
If the U.S. finish like 4, then they might end up facing each other before the final, like in the semifinal.
But the cross, do they reseed? So one in A plays 4 in B. 2 in A plays 3 in B. 3 in A plays 2 in B. 4 in A plays 1 in B. The winners come out. USA, Canada, 1 and 2. They would play. So would the 1 play the 2 on the other side, and the 2 would play the 1 in the semifinals?
No, I think they set up that bracket so 1. If you're on the 2, you're on the other side.
Okay,
I believe. They don't have it. They don't have it really written out here, but I'm pretty sure that they can definitely Yeah, because they faced each other before coming out of the same side.
Right.
I think a few years ago, they beat either obviously it was one or the other. They either beat them on New Year's Eve, but then lost to them in the gold medal game in like overtime. I think they beat them on New Year's Eve and then lost in like overtime a few years back.
Okay.
In the gold medal game.
Yeah, when I draw it out, there is a way. Okay, I thought I don't know if
I don't know if I guess I'd have to see it written out. Like if they're 4,
no, you're
if,
right.
if Canada's 1 and US is 4,
right.
Then they play, essentially if they're 1 and 4, then US, if the US were 4, they would play 1,
right.
which we presume would be Sweden out of Group B.
Right. No, you're right. You're right. Because they can. I kind of drew it out on the piece of paper next to me, and there's a way easily. Matter of fact, it might even be more difficult if they were in different conferences, A and B. It's actually easier with them. It's weird, but yeah, they can do it. It's all the scenarios are out there, so okay.
So basically, it's hockey every day. I think the only off day is the
January 1st for sure. On New Year's Day.
January New Year's Day is an off day, and then the I guess
one other.
It's
let's see if I can find it. Schedule
another off day.
Yeah, there's one more off day.
January 3rd.
Is it the 3rd?
Yeah, because then the 4th you have the semifinals.
Yep, you're right. Yeah, they go from the quarters to they take a day off. They go to the semis on the Saturday the 4th, and then the gold medal. The bronze medal game at 3:30 and the gold medal game at 7:30 on Sunday the 5th. So the whole thing is done. Basically, the 12 days of Christmas. The whole thing is done by January 5th.
Yeah. So and then great hockey. I mean, I didn't watch the whole game last night, but obviously I put on the NHL Network and they were replaying the last year's gold medal game. So I watched and they jump through it. They don't show the whole thing. I mean, it's basically, they don't show like the in between periods or anything. So which is great. So it goes right into the second period and it starts. Not that I don't like.
I love DVR in the games anyway.
Who's the guy who does the call? It's is it Starman?
Starman, yeah. Dave Strader. Is that his name? Dave.
Yeah. So
you always know it's a college hockey game when he's on.
Right. So I watched a bit of it just to confirm that they won it still.
Yeah.
Yep, they did win. All right.
Just to make sure.
So it is it's great in the US. Obviously they've gotten better and better and better over the last 10 years to the point where they're competing annually now, as opposed to, you see 20, 30 years ago, it was not so much. So 95, 90, so the 95, 96 was the first year I kind of watched it. And I don't think I watched actually, I think that was back when they didn't really play it all. Canada won the gold, Sweden won the silver, Russia won the bronze. Actually, I think the last time Russia was in it, didn't they win it in Buffalo? And then they got like thrown off the airplane in, or was it? No, I think the last year they win it was the year they lost. And one of the players went up to get the medal and he threw it over the glass.
Is that when they lost to USA? Was that like a 6-5? Oh my God, my memory. I can't remember now.
It might have been. I remember the kid went up to get his medal. And he like flung it over the glass.
Yeah. Hey Pat, I do have a quick clarification on the playoffs. So
yeah,
we're 100% right. Top 4 teams placed from the preliminary round will play the crossover quarterfinal game, as we mentioned. In the semifinals, so the Final Four, the best ranked team will play the lowest ranked semifinalist. The second best ranked semifinalist will play the third best ranked semifinalist. So they do, I guess, in theory, reseed. It's not a bracket like you would see in NCAA basketball.
So they essentially reseed.
They reseed. So yeah, the highest will play the lowest, and then the 2 middles. So so USA and Canada absolutely could play each other in the finals. They could also play each other in the semifinals, depending on how they do in preliminary rounds. So it is a possibility. So.
Which is really how the NCAA should do the college football bowl tournament.
Yeah,
wow. They should reseed. They should reseed after the first round, and now, so you don't have, anyway, it's a whole nother. We can do a whole separate
podcast on that.
Yeah, like the Oregon goes undefeated now. They have to play like the best team that's left to move on instead of getting the easier draw. But so I don't know. Where do we go from here? I guess 12 o'clock. Was it 12? 12 o'clock this afternoon.
12 o'clock. We kick things off with was it Germany? Short-term memory.
Sweden,
Slovakia. Germany playing USA.
yeah. Germany, USA at was it 2:30?
And I do think now when you see the really cool thing about this too is when you're watching a game, typically these games are over in about 2 hours and 20 minutes. You get 15 minutes in between periods instead of 18 in the NHL. So right away you cut 6 minutes off the game. You don't have as many commercials on this broadcast as you do a typical hockey game. So they may run a minute instead of 2 minutes, or a minute and a half instead of 2 minutes. And there is a shootout, which is interesting. But typically these games are done in 2.5 hours. Yeah. And I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I think they will delay the start of, like, say, Germany, USA, which is supposed to start at 2:30 at the other arena.
Right.
They will delay
if that
the start
first game isn't
5-10 minutes until the first game is over. I guess if it goes super long, maybe they'll throw it on in ESPN News, or I don't even know what they would throw it on. But in the preliminary rounds, the overtimes are 5 minutes, and then it's a quick shootout, 5 rounds of which you can repeat your guys in the shootout.
Oh yeah.
So that's interesting. So it's some pretty cool rules. The only rule I don't like is the gold medal game. I would prefer not going to a shootout. But they do play a 20-minute overtime. Semifinals, they play a 10-minute overtime. And the finals, they play a 20-minute overtime before going to a shootout.
And it is pretty cool because they do play, obviously they play by international rules, which is a little bit different. Like we're conditioned to watching, North American hockey style NHL, obviously, in the rules are a little bit different, not significantly, but there are. I think the NHL has moved to make some changes where it is more in line with the international rules because of the potential crossover that there's been with the Olympics and in world championships and all that. But there are some rules that, like, I think like one, for instance, is if your helmet comes off, you have to immediately skate to the bench. Right. Which I think is a rule now in the NHL.
I think that as of definitely this year, and it might have premiered last year. No more skating around the ice to finish your shift without a helmet in the NHL. It's always been that way that I can remember in college. And they brought it to the NHL level. Pat, the one rule I really want to see in the NHL, and I think you could go back and fix the history books, get an intern to do this, or somebody in the stats, and just update the standings. I love 3 points for the regulation win, 2 points for the overtime or shootout win, 1 point for the overtime or shootout loss, 0 points for a regulation loss. You see teams in the NHL, like, okay, you see them stop trying. Okay, let's just get to the overtime. We got ourselves a point. Let's see what happens in the overtime. I would love to see the NHL adopt the 3-point for a win policy in regulation and 2 in overtime. Still means a lot, but just not as much as regulation. And I've heard the argument of, how do you reward the team that the Bruins when they won the President's Trophy and they got 120 points? Oh, well, it's easy. You get the guy that works in the stats department, and you go back and you look at all their games. Which ones did they win in overtime? You give them 2 points. All the other games, all the other wins, you give them 3 points, and you readjust the point total to that's the record. So the 1964 Canadians might still have the record based on the new point system. You just update it. That's an easy enough system to update, I think. From back then, obviously there was no overtime to the 80s, so that might not have been the best example. But
they used to just fight out in the back alley, right?
Exactly. The professional women's league is using the 3-point, 2-point, 1-point scale. That league, which premiered last year, so they're doing it. International's doing it. I don't know if the Swedish league or KHL, the German league, I don't know if they're doing it. I wouldn't be surprised if they are. But I don't. They're using it in this tournament. They use it in the Olympics. And the other thing that they're missing on this tournament too, which is different from the Olympics, is the sheet of ice is 200 by 85 because you're up in Ottawa. You're not using the Olympic size ice, which is 200 by 100, which UNH utilizes for their rink. But in the Olympics, there, I believe 200 by 100 for the Olympic style. So I would like to see the Olympic style ice surface as well in the NHL. It'll never happen unless you build new arenas with that.
Right. And that's the challenge. I mean, Jesus, we just talked about, the 96 World Junior Championship being held at six different arenas.
Exactly.
And now, to get them all to, although, well, again, it's not quite as big as, or probably, I'm probably going to get shot by all my soccer friends, but obviously the World Cup is the biggest in the world. Right. So, a lot of these stadiums will, Gillette Stadium has to redo a lot of their area in order to host it. So
they have to roll out they have to roll out grass, don't they?
And they're taking out sections of stands so that they can put a full, because the field that they play on isn't what European and other teams play on, the size. Right. So they're taking out sections of stands so that they can put a field on and they're going to bring in, turf, like natural turf.
Yep.
And roll it out there. And that was part of the deal. Right. Yeah. So, but that's a multi-million dollar, obviously venture that they have going on with that tournament. They're bringing in millions and millions of dollars, whereas this tournament probably not so much. So it's like, hey,
are you saying that this doesn't cost the average fan $30,000 to go to the junior tournament like it would to go to the World Cup?
Yeah, I'm saying that I'm not getting any emails from the USA Hockey saying, hey, the only tickets that you're going to be able to get are the $35,000 club seats. If you're interested, let us know how many.
Yeah, exactly. I'll take 5.
Okay. Right. But I'm sure they sell them. So, So I think you said you're recording right today. I won't be home.
Yeah. No updates, please. This afternoon.
Updates. I might have to swing by HNIA tonight just to take in the U.S. game.
There we go. I'm starting it at 6 tonight, and then I'm just gonna start watching the game. People want to come over early, that's fine. I figured the first game might be that blowout game, which I get through in about an hour. So at 7, it's a lot of times when people show up. That's why I start the USA game. And again, even if that's a blowout, fine. Kick right over to the third game, which is Switzerland and Czechia. And
what else is on tonight?
Finland is on. We might even be live. Who knows?
What else? What pro sports? Did I see your
we got Chicago and Seattle in the NFL, and not exactly getting goosebumps when I think of that game, but it'll be on. There's some NBA on, but whatever.
NBA's it's such a bad, don't get me. I mean, I'm not a guy that will argue one way or the other, but like last night watching that game, if Jason Tatum didn't get fouled every time he drove to the basket, I don't know what a foul is anymore. He was literally getting mauled. And I used a different word last night. My wife yelled at me. And I'm like,
Patrick,
how is that not a foul? I'm like, how is that not a foul? Like literally every time he drove down the lane, he was getting tortured. No call. And the problem is that he acts out after and he's, and I get that, but it's like, tell me what a foul is then.
Right.
Because I don't know what a foul is anymore.
Right.
And then the game, I mean, I didn't watch the whole game before the night or 2 nights before when they played.
Is that the Orlando game?
Yeah, Orlando and lost, but it was bad officiating there too, where they just get, you would think it would be the opposite way at this point. Like defending world champions, they've established themselves. How are they not getting the calls?
The Celtics are not the Kansas City Chiefs of the NBA.
Oh Jesus! And
they're not getting the calls.
And I'm not a huge believer in that, but there's certainly it's almost like 1 or 2 plays every game that it's like I don't know that I mean there was a play yesterday where the guy dove, caught the ball, it clearly hit the ground, and they were like, I don't know, okay.
Did I saw a picture today of Kansas City redoing their end zones. Instead of writing Chiefs, they wrote refs.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Well, yeah. But it is what it is. I mean, the refs.
I also did not think the games are fixed. I didn't think the game.
No. I mean, the refs aren't throwing the interception. I mean, that was Russ.
Exactly.
That was him. He threw it.
I'm not saying I agree with all the calls, but they're not. It's not fixed.
No. And I get it. Their job is to try to protect certain players for sure.
Right.
And I'm sure that's out there. But but when those players start to make motions to try to draw those calls, that's when you just got to go, hey, listen, like you're gonna get the calls anyway. Like I don't need you throwing yourself to the ground and to try to force them. But anyway, a little segue, little off of the World Juniors, but
a little bit.
It's so today
we'll be giving updates on our show on Saturday for sure on the juniors. It's Saturday at 9 o'clock on ON.
We got a busy week, Kevin, right? So and honestly, when I started this with you in I mean, obviously you started back in May. I jumped in with you in July, beginning of July.
Something like that. I think we're on.
Yeah, I mean, we're catching some steam. We've got some mega momentum here on the podcast and on the show. We're getting calls. We get, we're doing the play-by-play and the color for basketball now. This weekend we got 2 games Friday night in the 51st annual Northern Rhode Island Boys and Girls Club Roadshow Holiday Tournament. So
you gotta memorize that one.
Right? Yeah. It is a mouthful. So tomorrow at 6 I believe. Is it 6 o'clock? You can
Tolman versus Woonsocket at 6 o'clock, and Lincoln versus Cumberland at about a half an hour after game 1 ends. About 7:45.
So like 7:45 ish, and that'll be broadcast live on WOON, probably on Facebook,
Woonsocket
YouTube,
Radio,
Woonsocketradio.com, 12:40 a.m. 99.5 FM. If you're in the Blackstone Valley area and you want to take a peek and listen, and then we'll be back on Saturday night for the championship game at 7:30. 45.
Yeah, 7:30. Again, we're not doing the consolation game, but we are doing the championship game. So again, approximately a half an hour after the consolation game, So, start tuning in, about 7:15, 7:30. I'm sure we'll do a bit of a pregame show, maybe 10 minutes instead of 5.
And then Kevin's doing the color for the Attleboro hockey and whatever else, right?
Attleboro hockey, girls basketball. Pat, you got the boys basketball.
I'll be doing color for yeah, I'm excited. So I appreciate, I thank you for bringing me in and giving me the opportunity. It's been fun, and it's good. Things are going well.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of fun, a lot of sports, and getting to talk about, some passions and a little bit of work at times. Like, but for the most part, it's not work. I always want these side hustles or whatever you want to call them, hobbies to not become work. And right now, it's still not work. It requires some work, but as long as it's fun,
it requires a little work, but it is fun, and it's fun doing it. I think we've gotten comfortable doing it. I think at first it was like, oh my God, like what if I say this, or what if I don't do this, or if I don't know a name. And there was still times where it's like, I watch back the show and I go, that wasn't his name, or
sometimes I cringe.
We correct ourselves.
I think,
but we also don't. Yeah. We don't have the guys in the back doing all the work for us, right? Looking up stats and feeding it to us in our ears, and like those guys, those guys up in Boston. So I think what we're doing is good. It's a good product. I think I appreciate Dave Richards and WON giving us the at least giving us the opportunity, and hopefully we can grow from there. I think ultimately, the hour it goes by quick. So, at some point, maybe we get that second hour in and we can cover a little bit more. And, but we'll continue to do the podcast and as much as we can. I know it's been hit and miss here the last few weeks, but wanted to do this, kind of somewhat of a deep dive, not really, but a little preview of the World Junior Tournament. And because I know it's something we've been big on. You're a big NCAA hockey guy, and
I went to a ton of Frozen Fours, like 18 of them through the years.
And I've gone to a bunch. Either the local, mostly local. I haven't traveled, but I have a buddy who's gone to a bunch of them too, and I think he's still like you. I think he still gets the emails for Frozen Four tickets every year, and he'll defer them or not or whatever. But
I'm still on the priority list. I haven't been able to go since my kids started playing D3 college baseball, so I followed there. I go to
we went games. In Boston, right?
Boston,
we went to that's the last one I went to. But usually I'll get a regional. I think a couple of my buddies, my brother and a couple of our buddies went up to I think UMass played up in Manchester a few years back. I think Notre Dame was there. So we grabbed tickets and went up there. A bunch of my buddies from UMass and checked that out. Always a good take. Usually they're around here. I think
there's always one
I think the AMP is hosting this year again.
Are they? Have to look that up. Yeah, usually between Worcester, Manchester, and Providence, which as long as you don't play the New England card of you need the overnight bag, you can get from Providence to Manchester in an hour and a half. So it's not a bad ride. But it's usually the regionals are usually in one of those areas. I think the Frozen Four this year is in Minnesota. I think
that would be great. I'll never be able to pull it off, but I do enough other traveling for other stupid stuff that my wife would never. It would have to be like a once in a lifetime.
I apologize. It's in St. Louis this year.
Oh, it's in St. Because they hosted. Where is it in St. Louis? Is that the arena? Didn't they host a regional last year, or was that like some small, like 1,500
it may have been.
seat
I'm not sure
place?
on the regional. They are at what's called the Enterprise Center, but
is that where the Blues play? No.
Yeah, that's where the Blues play.
Okay, so
St.
it is
Louis,
at the arena.
I went there before. It's
last year the regional was at some small like ice center, and it was literally I think it only seated like 1,500. It was a huge, and I think North Dakota ended up there, and it was like North Dakota brings like 1,500 on a in a blizzard, like never mind a regular day.
Pat, I'm gonna throw a trick question at you because I'm looking at the regional sites, and like when it's in Providence, it's usually hosted by Providence College or Brown.
Those
are that doesn't mean they're in it, but they're just a host school. So the regionals this year in Allentown, Pennsylvania, Penn State University is the host. Fargo, North Dakota is the host. Toledo, Ohio, Bowling Green is the host. And Manchester, New Hampshire, so is where the regional are this year, is the host. In St. Louis, if you could tell me who the host school is, I will spring, without looking it up, I will spring for a Frozen Four trip for you. all included. Yes, but you have to come up with it without looking it up.
Like obviously it's not a known school.
I'll even give you a hint. It's a known school, and it's obviously not the University of St. Louis. Those are my two hints.
It's a known hockey school?
It's a known school. They're not necessarily known for winning championships, but you know them.
For hockey, though. I would think of them as a hockey school.
I would think so. I would think so.
It's not the university. It's in St. Louis. It's got to be somewhere in that area. I'm gonna say it's probably not even close, but like Omaha.
Okay, no, and all right. The bet is off the board, but here's my final hint. I've always known them as a hockey school until very recently. They are now known as a soccer school. Right. Who just won the NCAA college soccer championship?
Vermont?
University of Vermont's the host school.
UVM is the host school for the regional in St. Louis.
Yes, in St. Louis.
That makes no sense.
It makes no sense.
Because you would think that the teams at least have to be in that area, right?
In the area, exactly. And they usually are. And
right.
Just so you know, next year, regionals are in Worcester. Then they are in Bridgeport, Connecticut, and Springfield, Mass. This is very surprising that they're not back in Providence. They are not coming back to Providence for a long time, through at least 2029. Matter of fact, in 2028, the closest. Wow, this is crazy. The closest they come is Rochester, New York.
Yeah, I think there's more and more like college type arenas now than there used to be. So they're probably opening it up so that
check with your buddy, because one of the things I used to hear all the time when I was going to all these Frozen Fours is how much everyone loved Providence for a Frozen Four site. They'll never go back to Providence for the Frozen Four. They'll always go to Boston unless ticket sales drop, because they can get an extra 6,000 or 5,000 people in Boston. But they all love Providence the most. I mean, these are people out in Denver, St. Louis, Minnesota, people that just travel throughout the lake. Providence is the best. Whenever we say, we just say we're from New England. And if we get talking to the people, then we specify. And as soon as we say New England, without prompting, they're like, oh, Providence is the best. And the fact, and even the regionals, Providence does well. I'm shocked that Providence is not on that list of regional sites for the next 4 years or so. That's crazy in my mind. And to have no New England school in 2028, that's just, I don't see Rochester, New York doing what Providence does.
No.
Wish I didn't look that up. Now I'm upset.
Right. Great. Maybe I have to go now.
So it's nothing. So and the Frozen Four is not even coming to the Northeast either. Like I said, they're coming to Chicago in 2028, St. Louis this year, Las Vegas next year, and then DC in 2027. DC
Chicago would be fun. I have some family out there. I could probably make that work.
And which one? Chicago.
Chicago. Vegas is Vegas. So
I went with Pete from Douglas to Chicago. That was fun.
Pete, yeah,
one of our regular callers.
Yeah, I wouldn't quite call him regular.
He's one of our regular listeners.
He calls him when we talk about field hockey.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly.
So, take that for what it's worth. If you're listening, Pete from Douglas.
Comment from Mark. Love this tournament. Absolutely, Mark. Favorite tournament. Can't wait. Hour 45 minutes away from the first game. Absolutely cannot wait.
Yeah,
for that
maybe we'll maybe we could do a live podcast while U.S. Canada game's going on.
New Year's Eve. Yeah, I gotta check.
Unless there's other stuff going on.
Gotta check with the
family.
I have
no plans. I'm just saying.
I'm not sure what my plans are. Sometimes I'm told what my plans are. I've been married successfully here for a few years now.
Is true.
Well, 20. I gotta recount. It's not my anniversary yet, but since '96, whenever that is. So it's 28. Wow, 28. So oh yeah, we're going here. Oh, okay. No, we don't have any plans. No, okay. I'll have fun wherever I go.
Yeah. As long as Thursday night's open.
What's that?
As long as Thursday nights are open every week.
Thursday from 7 to midnight.
That's all it needs.
All I need.
So all right, well, we'll wrap it up here. We're a little over an hour in. I gotta jump in the shower and get ready to go up to my my wife's side of the family for Christmas. And so I will
put that beer down now, Pat. You can't start drinking yet.
I know, right? I'll message you and let you know if I'm going to make it over to HNI because I won't watch the U.S. game unless they come there. So
I mean, feel free to watch it. Just don't let me know who won.
Oh, I won't be home, so I won't be able to watch it. I don't think I'll be able to get it on their TV up there, unfortunately. But yeah. Well, Kevin, always a pleasure.
It was great. Love it.
And I will see you tomorrow. We got a full day tomorrow.
Yeah.
And if you're around, if everyone's around, feel free to tune in. Kevin and I will be calling the 51st annual Northern Rhode Island Boys and Girls Holiday Roadshow basketball tournament featuring
Boys and Girls Club.
Oh, Northern Rhode Island Boys and Girls Club Holiday Roadshow basketball tournament.
Yep. 51st. You've been practicing. I'm gonna let you say it.
Okay, of course. And featuring 4 of the best of Blackstone Valley's finest high schools: Woonsocket, Tolman, Lincoln, and Cumberland. So, and that is at Cumberland High School. But you can tune in here, or not here, but live on the WOON Facebook page and YouTube channel. Or listen in.
WoonsocketRadio.com. Definitely their Facebook page on WoonsocketRadio.com for sure.
So that'll be both tomorrow night and Saturday night. We'll have the final.
Yep.
And then we'll be on Saturday morning, 9:00 from the cheap seats.
I'm sure we'll recap a couple of the high school games that we did. We'll recap what's been going on in the junior tournament and whatever else strikes our fancy. Haven't really thought about Saturday's show yet.
I haven't either. It's been a whirlwind of a week running around.
Exactly.
I forget what I bought. I didn't get this. Oh, I forgot that.
Right.
Okay, I'm on it. So
get me out.
All right. Well, wishing everyone a happy holiday, happy Boxers Day to everyone who all my Canadian friends and family, and we'll see you guys again.
Sounds good.
Kevin, thank you.
Thank you, Pat. Appreciate it.